2025 Best Actor at the Triumph Golden Globe Awards. A thriller and suspense drama starring Eric. Mexico Morgue's 9 Corpses is coming with a bang. Just hearing the name of this show is enough to make you tremble. Let's get started. The story begins with this small passenger plane. The flight attendant is enthusiastically serving everyone, but the woman looked worriedly at the jungle outside the window, followed by a puzzled inquiry. Shouldn't they be at sea now? The flight attendant explained that the captain sometimes chooses a different route to avoid bad weather. It's been 4 hours already. They should have arrived at their destination by now. To reassure passengers, the flight attendant said she would go find the captain to confirm, but others didn't care. Just chatting with the person next to me. Little did they know that the captain was already on pins and needles. After he found the piece of the airliner failed, immediately used the radio to contact the tower. The captain kept calling for help. Fuel is running low, but got no response. Looking at the distant mountains, the captain shook his head in despair, then picked up the phone next to him, recorded a final message for the family. Anthony in the cockpit finally realized something was wrong. He watched in horror as the plane flew lower and lower, and the engine also stopped running. Right after the alarm goes off, the captain had to pull the joystick, trying to steady the aircraft, but it was all in vain. He could only watch as the airliner crashed into the jungle. The passenger plane crashed in the jungle. Luckily, all 8 passengers survived. Fat Uncle only has a slight scratch on his face. Unfortunately, the flight attendant seems seriously injured. Kevin just took a look. It means her cervical fracture is beyond saving. The survivors started helping each other, just as Carlo was trying to open the hatch. Suddenly, thick smoke billowed from the engine. Anthony and Kevin worked together to open the cockpit. They found the captain had been hit by a branch, but still breathing. Kevin just pulled the branch out. The engine burst into flames. After smelling smoke, Carlo kicked the hatch open, then hurried to the front of the plane. The others escaped at Anthony's reminder. Carlo is recklessly rummaging around for something. If Sophie hadn't put out the fire with the fire extinguisher in time, looks like Carlo is gonna bite the dust. You can't be serious. What's in there that's so important to you? You almost died, mice. What's in the box that makes Carlo so anxious? This seems to be a mystery. The first day after the plane crash, one intended, one seriously injured, since the captain is still unconscious, making everyone unaware of where they are. Kai is gonna use his phone to call for help. No signal in the deep mountains. Carlo opened his suitcase, felt relieved after checking. Fatty looked over here confused, really curious what's in the box. Anthony and the others gathered in the cabin, discussing how to deal with the flight attendant's body. It's hot in the jungle. Shrimp bugs will breed soon. They have to move it ASAP. Sophie said she started traveling when she was very young. Guess based on your own experience, they should be in northern Mexico now. There are about 600 square miles of mountains and rainforest here. To put it simply, this is a secluded place. I don't know what dangers lie ahead. Oblivious Dandy outside, comforting his scared wife. Amy suddenly saw something moving in the bushes, and this thing is staring at her, watching the flight attendant's body being carried away. Aunt Pang then walked towards the cabin. I see Sophie organizing the food. Then he questioned her if she wanted to keep it all for herself. Sophie wasn't angry. Just a patient explanation. There are 9 fruit plates and 6 salad plates left. Some sandwiches and chocolates. She doesn't know how long she'll be here. These things must be allocated in limited quantities. Anthony and Kevin carried the stewardess to a hollow. I was going to say something, but they don't even know the flight attendant's name. Just as the two hesitated, Carlo anxiously arrived here, telling them the pilot was awake. Seeing the 3 return, Dandy said he realized the pilot couldn't breathe, so he asked Carlo to find the 2. Anthony saw this and squatted down, asking them what had happened. The pilot struggled to tell everyone that the plane's apiece had failed. He tried to use the map to find the course, but before he could say where they were, the pilot couldn't hold on any longer. Kevin blamed Anthony for doing that. Didn't you see the pilot was in pain? But Anthony told him to deal with it because he was the only doctor here. Who told you I was a doctor? Anthony explained that Kevin, when he saw the flight attendant, said she had a fractured cervical vertebra. Ordinary people would just say broken neck, and wouldn't use medical terminology. Kevin panicked and said, he used to be a doctor, but he isn't anymore. Besides, the pilot has multiple lacerations and a broken left arm. and his sternum is pierced. Luckily, it's not very deep, but chest pain, rapid breathing, and distended neck veins all indicate he has a pneumothorax. Too much air in the body can lead to cardiovascular collapse, and then there's no saving him. Usually this requires emergency thoracotomy, but they're in the jungle, with no equipment or anesthesia. Rushing in will only hasten the pilot's death, since there was no way. They had to watch the pilot lying on the ground groaning. Then they sat around together, since they didn't know how long they'd be there. Anthony suggested getting to know each other. Finding that no one else wanted to speak, Anthony had to set an example. He said he was an insurance investigator, who had just verified a warehouse arson case and was preparing to go home. Kevin speculated whether someone deliberately crashed the plane to stop you from reporting. Anthony laughed and explained that was impossible, because he had already reported it. Dandy and Amy are a newly married couple. They're on their way to their honeymoon. Fat Uncle and Fat Brother run several motels in the United States. They're out on vacation this time. Fat Uncle said meeting is fate. If you travel to the United States, you can get a 10-cent discount on his hotel. Only 10. That's right, 10 cents off is a lot. It seems these two are stingy. Not only that, they also look down on Sophie, who is British. Sophie obviously didn't want to talk about herself, just telling everyone that she was constantly traveling. Dandy was curious how she could afford to travel without working. This made Sophie angry, saying she came here not wanting anyone to know her, so she wouldn't answer that question. It seems Sophie is hiding something. Kevin used to be a doctor, and now makes a living selling medical equipment. He took this flight to get goods. Obviously, he didn't want to mention his past either. It seems he also has something to hide. Carlo said he was a wrestler, and then said nothing more. Fat Uncle mocked him after hearing this, saying he didn't even know what a wrestler was, asking if it was like a street performer. This made Carlo extremely angry, and he retorted saying, "You Americans have guns, Superman and Batman, but freestyle wrestling includes all of these and even more. It's in our blood." And he was going to participate in the competition in 3 days. He had been preparing for this his whole life. After getting to know each other, Anthony outlined the current situation. He believes the trouble they're in now may be bigger than they imagined. There's no cell phone signal here. When the plane crashed, it should have triggered the emergency locator transmitter, but he speculates it may have been broken in the crash. It's simple to prove this. We'll know if no one comes looking for them. Since the pilot said the GEPs failed, they can only use maps and compasses to orient themselves. Luckily the plane ran out of fuel. That's why there was no explosion just now. It's getting late. Anthony suggested they use the map to figure out their location in the morning. As for where to sleep, Amy suggested going inside the cabin, but Sophie thought it was better to stay outside. Since the jungle is hot and dry, there's no need to worry about keeping warm. The only thing to watch out for is snakes, insects, and rodents. But these things are more afraid of humans. As long as you don't provoke them, everyone should be safe. Just as Anthony was arranging things in a haphazard manner, Kevin protested, "Why is Anthony acting like the boss here?" The two started arguing about it. If Sophie hadn't stopped them in time, they probably would have started fighting. Seeing this, Fatty changed the subject. He said they might be here for a while. They should be concerned about supplies now. There are 15 bottles of water in the cabin. That's probably not enough for 9 people, especially since it's hot here. The food can't be kept for too long. The remaining food won't last for more than a few days. When everything is used up, they will have to find food themselves. As the saying goes, the bridge will rise when you get to the river. You need to be full to have the strength to work. After Fatty distributed the salad, everyone ate dinner. However, listening to the captain's cough, no one was in the mood to eat. Emmy said excited that they shouldn't just stand by and watch him die. Hearing this, Kevin reluctantly put down his dinner. He got up and decided to perform open chest surgery on the captain. Antiseptic ointment and bandages are available on the plane. Sutures are also in his luggage, but there is no scalpel. At Fatty's suggestion, Fatty took out a dagger from behind him. The owner of a motel is carrying a weapon with him. Are they running a black shop? Everything is ready. Kevin asked Anthony to wash his hands and help. Then he put the tools in the fire. Then he asked Sophie to hand over the vodka. He took a big gulp. Under Sophie's puzzled gaze, Kevin poured the wine on the captain. He disinfected his hands with the rest. He asked Anthony to untee his belt and put it in the captain's mouth as an anesthetic. Before starting, Kevin didn't forget to shirk responsibility. He said that everyone was forcing him to do it. He can't guarantee it will work. He said all that. Kevin took the dagger and stabbed it into the captain's body. Listening to the screams outside, Em was a little scared. At this time, the lights in the cabin suddenly went out. When she looked outside, she saw a figure hiding in the jungle. Emmy quickly stepped forward, but found nothing. And what everyone didn't expect was that danger was approaching them. Seeing Carlo leave the camp, Fatty couldn't contain his curiosity. She came to the suitcase, wanting to see what could make Carlo so desperate. But the box was locked and couldn't be opened at all. The surgery was successful. Kevin said that although the captain's condition looked good, he couldn't guarantee anything. Considering the high chance of infection in this situation, he has to get through tonight. Night fell quickly. A crow appeared and began to peck at the remains of an unknown beast. Everyone fell asleep. It seemed that something had entered the camp. Carlo was exercising not far away, unaware that there was a black shadow watching him not far away. The next morning, everyone found that the captain was dead. This made Kevin very remorseful. He didn't understand that there was no infection or internal bleeding. The captain should have survived. So what killed him? Good question. Do you have any ideas? How would I know? Kevin guessed the captain died of post-operative shock. He didn't expect he was killed. It happened last night. A shadow picked up the clothes on the ground, came to the captain and suffocated him. The unknowing people are still discussing, waiting for the rescue to arrive. They want to take away the bodies of the flight attendant and the captain. Little did they know that in the next few days, extremely terrifying things happened. Cut to another scene. Time came to 9 days later. A pickup truck came to the side of a military base. The woman in the car used binoculars to observe the barracks. I saw a helicopter coming soon. Then the soldiers moved several body bags from it. The woman curiously counted. There are 9 bodies in total. She didn't understand why these bodies were brought to the military camp. But it is certain that these people are on their way to the morgue. If you want to know what happened, then you can only wait here. The officer already knows through the information. These bodies are from the passenger plane that crashed 8 days ago. What's even more puzzling is that soldiers were in the wreckage of the plane, found 10 passports in these 8 days. What happened to the surviving people? Why aren't the bodies sent to the forensic center? Instead, it was sent to the military base.